Hello, my name is Dr. Denise, and this is this week's A Dose from Dr. Denise, where I hope to teach, show, and inspire you how to release your God-given health and life potential. Happy Sunday. We are in the second or third week, depending on where you are, of the coronavirus, which is affecting the entire world. And in my lifetime, I've never had anything like this. So I think there's going to be a lot of good that comes out of it. And I certainly know there's a lot of suffering that we're all going through right now. I'd like to remind you that, as Byron Katie says, your thoughts create your suffering, but only all of the time. Your thoughts create your suffering, but only all of the time. So much of the suffering that you're going through right now is because of your thinking about it. Very few people are truly physically suffering, but it's an emotional suffering that we're going through, which is your thoughts. And Byron Katie also says that life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. You don't have to like it, it's just easier if you do. And so what I want to talk about today is how this experience is going to change you. You know, if you go back to being the same person you were before coronavirus, then nothing will have changed. And I personally believe that how quickly we will get back online to the world running in an efficient manner again is going to be directly proportional to the changes that we're willing to make. And we have a lot of changes that we need to collectively make. You know, I've been feeling for some time now, I've been recording these doses for a couple years, I've been writing for well over a decade, and I've been meditating and praying for a very long time. And I have felt it very deeply in my soul that some major shift was going to happen so that we could go to a higher level of consciousness and a higher vibration as a people and as a planet. And that it is happening in our lifetime is a miracle. You may not look at it like that right now, but I think it would help if you do. And so to make this practical, to make this time where you're sheltering in and you're staying home, I think you need to look at things that you're doing right now that you promise and will promise yourself that you will continue to do after this crisis is over. And it will be over, maybe not on our timetable. It may take several weeks or months versus us who want it over right now. But as I said last week in my dose, it's God's timetable. It's not ours. And his time, the universe time, is completely different from our earth time. And so what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to look at all the positive things that is happening right now, both at home and around the world. And I made a list of a few of them. And then I'm going to read to you, I'm going to finish up with a beautiful thought out of a book called A Return to Love, which I have quoted from many times. I'm going to read one scripture out of Ecclesiastes, which I think is very, very appropriate to what we're all going through. And so some of the few things that I've noted that I think are going to be just hugely important lessons for us to learn. I pray that we do learn them. Number one is to be satisfied with less. Just hugely important. Number two, to spend time reading, writing, praying, and meditating. All four of those things are just incredibly important for you to get in touch with your soul and your soul's purpose. I think what is going on with the toilet paper issue around the world, certainly in the United States, is very specific. I don't think it's random that toilet paper is what we are running short on, because it humbles all of us, and it teaches us to take a big, giant, humble step back and be grateful for all that we have. Running water, toilets that flush, and toilet paper. And if you don't have any, then it humbles you to ask your neighbor for someone. Because if there's anything that this lesson is going to teach us, and there's many lessons, but if there's anything that this virus can teach us, is that we are to love our neighbors as we love ourselves and get closer to those in our community so that we can become better servants. I think it's incredibly important for us to learn right now to shut off the television. The other night, Steve, my husband, and I were bouncing back and forth between CNN and Fox News, not for any purpose of education, but purely for humor, because they were both talking on the same topic, which was what was going on in the hospitals in New York City, and they were both presenting a complete opposite message. So clearly, it wasn't based on the facts because they're reporting completely different stories. And so I'm shutting off the television. I had started watching it a bit too much. I don't watch it hardly at all, but I was watching it more with this epidemic, and it has just reminded me that it doesn't serve us. Trust me, the news will find you. I think the amount of quality and quantity time that you're probably getting with your children is incredible. You will not get it back. You need to take full advantage of it. This is certainly going to allow you to appreciate everything that our teachers do for us. I do not have my sons at home with me anymore, but I promise you that I would give anything to have one more day with them and a family meal with them a couple days in a row. And so for you moms and dads that are suffering with a house full of kids, perhaps grandkids, and you're pulling your hair out, take a step back and be grateful that you have those children, because there are many parents that would do anything for that moment. I think it's incredible that although the restaurants and the restaurant industry is clearly hurting, and I don't mean any disrespect to that industry, but the ability to be at home and to cook at home and to have family meals and to eat better and healthier, it's all a choice, and it's incredibly important that you're doing that right now. I think that's hugely important, because as we're learning with this virus, it's people that have underlying health conditions. And as a nation, we're so incredibly unhealthy. And so what I hope you do is take from this that it's really important to make regular deposits in your health savings account. Do you eat right, move right, think right, sleep right? All very important. So that's my list. I don't know what yours is, but I personally think you should write a list of all the positives that could come out of a very, very difficult time right now. It's a plentiful list. Write it down, type it up, put it on your refrigerator, so that when this passes, and it will, that you will go back to that list and you will promise yourself that you'll never, ever forget that again. In Ecclesiastes 7:1 out of the Message Bible, it says, "On a good day, enjoy yourself. On a bad day, examine your conscience. God arranges for both kinds of days so that we won't take anything for granted." And in A Return to Love, one of my favorite books of all times, it says, "Love is what we were born with. Fear is what we have learned here." The spiritual journey is the relinquishment or the unlearning of fear and the acceptance of love back into our hearts. Love is the essential, existential fact. It is our ultimate reality and our purpose here on earth. To be consciously aware of it, to experience love in ourselves and others is the meaning of life. And as I have said many times, it is the basis of many spiritual texts, but in particular in A Course in Miracles. There are only two things in this world. There are only two vibrations. There are only two emotions. Everything stems from these two things. One is fear and one is love. And I can tell you that right now, probably 98% of the world is vibrating at fear. But it will only take the 2% of us that are willing to vibrate at a love that can overcome that. And I pray that you'll be one of those 2%ers. Have a blessed week. Stay present. Learn from this. Grow from this. Recognize it's not going to be on our timetable, but this too shall pass. Peace out.